Okay, let's jump right into it. There are some serious storm clouds gathering over the Canada-US relationship, and it really looks like Ontario is right in the eye of that storm. A potential trade war is casting a huge shadow over the province's entire economy.
And listen, this isn't just some abstract economic theory, right? As you can see from this quote from Ontario's finance minister, we're talking about a direct threat to people's livelihoods. I mean, we're talking about the absolute cornerstones of the Ontario economy, auto manufacturing, steel, and they are directly in the line of fire.
So that brings us to the big question, doesn't it? When your biggest trading partner threatens to pretty much tear up the rulebook, what do? How does Ontario protect itself? What's the plan to ride out this economic storm?
All right, before we get into the nuts and bolts of the plan, I think it's really important we all grasp just how big this challenge is. So let's start there. Let's size up exactly what Ontario is facing.
Okay, so here's the core of the problem. A proposed 25% tariff on, well, everything we send south of the border. This isn't just some small adjustment. No way. This is a massive shakeup to how our economies have worked together for decades.
And this is where it gets really serious on a national level. Economic analysis suggests these tariffs could actually shrink Canada's entire GDP by 2.6%. Now, to put that number into perspective for you, a drop like that's big enough to potentially tip the whole country into a recession by the middle of 2026. I mean, that is a huge economic hit.
So, what does a number like that actually mean for you and me? Well, it could break down to about $1,900 per person every single year. And all of a sudden, this isn't some far-off policy debate anymore, is it? It becomes incredibly personal. It hits your wallet directly.
And if you want a really simple, everyday example, just look at your grocery bill. See, tariffs mess with these super complex supply chains, and that includes the food we eat. Because of that mess, the cost of stuff we buy all the time could just skyrocket. Take a simple loaf of bread. Its price could jump from $3.50 to $5.50. That's almost a 60% increase.
Okay, when you're facing a threat that big, you've got to have a response, right? It's absolutely critical. So what's Ontario doing right now, today, to shield its workers and its businesses? Let's dive into the immediate protection plan.
The government has laid out a pretty clear two-part strategy. Think of it like a hurricane's coming. First, you board up the windows and lay down sandbags. That's the immediate relief. But then, you start reinforcing the whole foundation of the house so it can handle the next storm and the one after that. And the centerpiece of that immediate relief is a $5 billion protection fund. That's a huge number. The first billion is basically a lifeline for the sectors that are getting hit the hardest. And the other $4 billion, that's all about helping businesses adapt for the long haul. Get more efficient and find new customers outside the U.S.
But it's not just about handing out money. The plan also offers what's called liquidity relief, which is really just a fancy way of saying they're helping businesses with their cash flow. They're letting 80,000 businesses delay paying their taxes, which keeps more money in their bank accounts, and they're cutting workplace insurance costs. It's all about lowering the day-to-day financial pressure to help these companies just stay afloat.
Okay, but putting out fires isn't enough, right? That brings us to part 2 of the plan. And this is all about the future. It's a big vision for a stronger, more self-reliant Ontario.
And when I say big vision, I mean the price tag is, well, it's just staggering. We're talking about the most ambitious building plan in the province's entire history. Over $201 billion over the next 10 years, all dedicated to building the infrastructure we're going to need for the future.
So you're probably wondering, where does $201 billion go? Well, a huge piece of that pie is going to fight something we all know and hate, gridlock. It's a massive drain on our economy every single year. So we're looking at huge projects like Highway 413, the Bradford Bypass, and, get this, the largest public transit expansion happening anywhere in North America.
Really, what this is all about is building the arteries of a modern economy. When you invest in roads and trains and subways, you're making it easier to move people and products around, inside our own borders. And that strengthens our own supply chains and makes us a lot less vulnerable when things get messy with other countries.
So, okay, we've got this bold plan. It covers the short term and the long term. But what's happening right now? What's the reality on the ground? Well, the truth is, the road ahead is anything but certain.
And here's a bit of a reality check to back that up. Statistics Canada just reported that for October 2025, retail sales in Ontario were completely flat. Zero growth. That's a really clear signal that people are already starting to tighten their belts. Those economic headwinds, they're already here.
And you can see that uncertainty spelled out right here in the government's own projections. They've basically mapped out 3 different ways this could all go. The one in the middle, their main planning scenario, shows a small surplus in a few years. But look at the slower growth path. The deficit actually gets worse. Then again, if we get faster growth, we end up with a pretty nice surplus. And which path we end up on, well, that's going to have huge consequences for things like public services and our taxes.
But even with all that uncertainty, the government is really trying to frame this as not just a challenge, but an opportunity. A chance to build something stronger, more resilient. They're pointing to history, saying we've overcome tough times before and we can do it again.
So that really leaves us with the big final question, doesn't it? The storm is here. There's a massive plan on the table to protect and rebuild, but with so many things still up in the air, which of these futures is Ontario actually going to build for itself? I guess only time will tell, and the next few years are going to be absolutely critical.